I don't really know what drives me, why it happened this way. I came to Warsaw to start out somewhere, to get into modeling, to finish school, but it all turned out to be a big spontaneous move because I got a message on Max Models from TVN inviting me to a casting. At first I was a bit skeptical about it. I didn't know whether I should eat or not eat. Then a friend of mine also came and said, listen, there's a casting for top model, you have to be there. I said, all right, the casting was in 2 days, right? I was fully prepared, in shape, and I said I'm going in. And honestly, I spent 2 days at the castings, 2 tough days, because they were 12 hours each, castings, but I made it. I also had exams. At that time I passed the exams, failed one, okay. And I got into the program and passed those exams, so I was really happy. I'm telling you, it was totally spontaneous. I had no idea I'd get in. When I walked into the casting, I saw 400 people in the square. And I thought to myself, man, look at how many handsome guys are here. Who are you even competing with, right? That's what I thought at first. Me with my shoes, some loafers, jeans, tight shirt, and I was just walking around, you know, and all I saw were guys like that. They were strutting around so confidently, and I saw to myself, oh man, but somehow I managed and even did pretty well. The thing is, I still keep in touch with those people to this day, the ones we used to walk around like that at the castings, and honestly, they were really handsome guys, you know. But they also had their heads on straight, and that was cool too, that I could talk to them completely outside of the competition. Of course, it was a rivalry because each of us was fighting to get in somewhere, but a healthy one. If you get in, that's awesome. If you don't get in, that's awesome too. Once my friend told me a really cool saying. He was reading a book and he told me, listen, it's important to set yourself up in life so that even when you're sleeping, your mind is growing. And I thought to myself, that's cool. I'll slowly start implementing that little by little. Of course, I had already been doing various things before, but here I started to think about it more seriously. I'm not saying I'm some great businessman or that I've already achieved something extraordinary, because I believe that a person builds throughout their entire life. But as long as I have energy, as long as I have strength, as long as I have motivation and a reasonably good imagination, I'm putting everything together like a puzzle. But back when I was a child, I used to put together puzzles, and now I'm putting together my life. And I try to do everything thoughtfully. I'm a physiotherapist, I enjoy it, I know what I'm doing, and I'm still learning there too. Every patient is a new case, every person is a new challenge for me. That's my job. Modeling. In modeling, I could keep working for the rest of my life, as long as I age well. If I'm still handsome in 40 years, they'll keep hiring me for campaigns, they'll keep taking me for runway shows. I won't limit myself in any way, meaning I won't do just one thing exclusively. Modeling, I'm always open to it, but I also don't like to beg for work. I like to do something and I get paid for it. And it's the same here in modeling. I don't want it to look like I'm doing something just because I have to make money. If someone wants me, is sure about me, knows what I look like, knows how I walk, knows how I speak, knows what I do, really. That I'm not just some self-absorbed model who just waits for campaigns or runway shows, but I also have other passions, you know. Football, I stopped playing football when I participated in the show, but now I've come back to it once again. It wasn't a mistake, because everyone tells me I made a mistake by quitting football, but it was a time when I was also searching for another side of myself. Can I devote myself solely to modeling or maybe do something more? At first it was difficult for me to handle everything because it meant moving to Warsaw, so I also had to find a way to manage there. And later I decided that I still have time for football. And now, after I opened an island in Torun, I also combined it with rehabilitation. So when I play football now, I also provide rehabilitation for the guys. I give them biological regeneration, which they really need. And in addition, I also play as a goalkeeper. And the first match We played, with the guys, and opposing coach came up to my coach and asked where this goalkeeper was from, who is this goalkeeper, and I had an amazing day. Really, I always call it a horse day, meaning we lost 3-1, but we should have lost 10-1, but the guys didn't know why I was catching everything. And my coach replied to the other coach, well, I was on my way to the match, saw him standing at the bus stop, so I picked him up. He said he plays football, and so I try as long as I have the strength. And I'm not saying that this is where I'll stop. I run marathons, I run Spartans. It was a cool challenge, but I told myself it's not for me, you know? Not for me, because when I ran 26 kilometers in Klinika Zidroi, that was enough for me. It was such a blast that when I finished the run, it took me an hour and a half to recover. I mean, my oxygen debt was so huge that I thought, I'm not gonna get up. I was completely drained of energy. So I told myself, it's a shame to waste my health if I'm supposed to help someone else, because later I have to go back to rehab and I have absolutely no energy for anything. So I thought to myself that, and what's most interesting is that everything I do in sports, I apply to my rehabilitation. So I know myself what might hurt someone, and if something hurts, I know exactly where it hurts. So what I am truly saying is that I can genuinely motivate both dedicated marathon runners and aspiring athletes to actively get moving, little by little, I think, little by little. My first motorcycle was a small moped. I often go back to that time and remember that my brother got the first moped, and I was so jealous of him and wanted one of those square ones with the square gas tank. It could hold 4.5 liters of gasoline, I remember. Mine held 5.5 because I already had the oval one. But I remember my mom bought me that moped and said, son, you wanted to have one just like your brother, so here you go. I was so happy, but there was just one thing that stuck in my mind. They had a red one, and I really like burgundy, but mine was orange, so right away I wanted to repaint it. But I still rode it everywhere, and it was great. I remember my first accident on the moped. I was riding on the gas tank, carrying a friend on the seat, and I was going through a small puddle when suddenly the handlebars twisted because it was such a tiny handlebar, and he went flying because of me, and I ended up on my side on top of him, and his finger, I remember, nothing major happened really, but we were young, so his finger was bent the other way and then started to swell up. I said, no man, you'll be fine. It swelled up a little, but the next day it was huge. I was moving like a snail, but it was fun. Yeah, that was my first motorcycle. Later on, my stepfather was putting bikes together somewhere. WFM, WS models, so I tried to help out too, because I remember once we put together a Komar moped ourselves, and that Komar moped, of course, wasn't like this beautiful one with matching colors on. Folk was navy blue, the other yellow, the mirrors were already red, so it was a real mishmash of colors, you know. But I remember a situation where it had end-operated gears. I started it up, got on, and rode off in one direction. My mom and stepdad stayed behind, watching me as I rode off. And then the motorcycle stalled on me. I turned around, a truck was coming, it passed by, so I thought I'll just push the motorcycle home. Since I still didn't have full control, I set it to second gear, and I pulled in the clutch. Pressed it. So I kept pushing the motorcycle, pushing and pushing, and my dad said something like, get on if you push it. And suddenly I let go of the clutch, and the motorcycle started up. Of course, as it pulled me forward, I gave it some gas, and off I went. And he's running after the motorcycle, and I'm heading straight for them, riding right at them. My mom stood in front of the car because there was a car behind her, and yeah, I didn't know where I was going to, where I would crash, you know. And right in front of her, such a little guy, threw the motorcycle into the ditch, and I was lying there, just started crying, saying I'm never getting on that motorcycle again. That's when it ended, but I remember the wheel was just spinning like crazy, you know, while that was a foldable motorcycle, so it was a huge thrill that I could ride it, you know. But I remember that I was learning back then, even how to shift gears, you know, because I just wasn't used to it, right? And then later on, my mom bought me a scooter somewhere, a Honda. I remember I literally rode it out from the guy's yard, and it was flooded, it had a puncture. The float in the carburetor, I filled it up to the brim because I like to fill the tank all the way, you know. I plug it up, look, and gas is leaking underneath, and I'm like, well, that's the kind of machine you bought. First failed, but then we replaced the float in the carburetor, and it was really good. A motorcycle, that was my scooter. Later, I also had a Peugeot scooter, and I did something. I had this huge top case, and in it I installed 2 speakers and a radio. I'd ride around the village, and there was, honestly, it was such a blast at we'd start parties there. And then I had an RS, an Aprilia, a 50cc. So I used to ride around the countryside. It was great. All the turns were mine. I was riding with a friend, and I came out of a turn, you know, and I ended up stuck on a tree, but it was fun, you know, it was fun. I knew all the turns, I knew exactly how everything looked, but it was dark, there was a little stone, and I just couldn't brake in time. I think those adventures were great. I gained a lot of experience riding each of those motorcycles one after another. And then I bought myself a Kawasaki, an 800. I think I fell in love from the very beginning when I left Poznan with it after the guy gave me a ride. At first I was sitting in the back saying, "Sir, slower. Sir, slower, I can't handle this." And he was fishtailing the bag, giving it some gas, really pushing it. Honestly, when I was riding home from the dealership on the motorcycle, I was going like 50 kilometers an hour. I thought, I need to get used to this, because if I twist the throttle too hard, then they told me not to go hard on the throttle or I'll fall off. But I remember that somehow I managed. I was riding calmly, made it there, and I was so happy that it took me 4 hours to get from Poznan to home, you know, but I made it. That's the most important thing, I made it, right? And so little by little, somewhere along the way, for now I'm sticking with the Kawasaki. We'll see what the future brings, right? I mean, it's like, you know, Julius. I actually mentioned this in an interview as well, that when I was still a little kid, one who obviously didn't ride motorcycles because everyone forbade it, because it was dangerous. I remember that when I went shopping with my grandma or grandpa, I would always say, "Grandma, could you buy me auto świat or świat motocykli?" And my grandpa would always pull out the 10 or 15 zlotys from his pocket and say, "Here you go, kiddo, go buy yourself one." I'm not saying I read them every single month, but whenever I was somewhere, I would always reach for something. I wasn't buying Playboy or CKM back then yet. But I was always fascinated by the world of sports cars and sports motorcycles, and women too. That's just how it works. I mean, the main intention I truly had was my own. I wanted to express my sincere thank you for the incredible experience of Top Model. I wanted to extend my heartfelt thanks for many different and wonderful things, and for all the amazing people I met along the way during the journey. I had my own intention that I went in with, and on top of that, my fans joined in, creating this huge wave of messages, this virtual network. I was honestly shocked that it was all happening like that. I remember back then, well, 5 million, I think, at that time. I had people with me who would visit my profile, send me so many messages that when I arrived at a place, I remember I would always sit down or sometimes lie on my sleeping mat and read those messages. I wasn't even able to read, even half of them in a single day. And I remember that on the first day, I don't remember if I was in Izbika or if it was the first day lady from a newspaper in Warsaw called me right away saying that someone had seen me, someone had taken a photo of me, and was it really me, and if she could an interview. I said, well, maybe after I get back, not now, not over the phone. I'm still in touch with her to this day. She's a really great lady who called me back then. We did the interview during the pilgrimage where I just went off somewhere, sat down, and we talked. So I walked for 13 days. That was my third pilgrimage. I always try to, I don't like just walking. Of course you have to walk, but I don't like just walking. I prefer to do something more. And I remember on the first pilgrimage I went on, there were over 400 people. Those were the times when these pilgrimages were really big. And back then, not everyone had a place to stay there. You slept at a school, in a tent, something like that. Now it's different. A lot more people now stay overnight with locals. People are more willing to host, and they're able to at least offer you water and a sandwich. And I remember the first time I went and took speakers with me, some crates too. I dragged them along because I just didn't like walking for the sake of it. I prefer to get involved somehow and help someone else out. And on the second pilgrimage, I took my sister with me, so she would go with me. She was really happy too, but that time I separated from her and walked as part of the order service, which meant I held the cable. And from the other side, I'd tell people to move aside because the truck was coming. And then on the third pilgrimage, I wanted to be in the road service, which meant I was directing traffic too. And I also went through training at the beginning, everything, because after all, you're responsible for the group. But I was happy that, because you know, there are people walking there with 20 years of experience, right? On the pilgrimage, where the road service really has to take full responsibility. And here I was glad that the priest who tested me, trusted me. He said, well, young guy, but cool, ambitious, and knows what he's doing, so welcome to the team, right? So that was nice too. Of course you feel a bit alone, isolated from the whole group, because either we go at the front or at the back. At the back you can hear a bit because obviously with the wind, and at the front, well, it wasn't always with the wind, sometimes it was against the wind, right? But anyway, to the point when I finally reached Częstochowa, I remember feeling a sense of relief, kind of in my head. Of course, the messages didn't stop coming. I think it was only about a good month after the pilgrimage, when I finally started, that I managed to read through all the intentions to the end. I tried to reply to everyone. And in Częstochowa, I tried to pray for the people who wrote to me. Because I wasn't able to read it all, I needed real conversation, not just sitting somewhere online. So even in the middle of it all, I wasn't spending that much time on Instagram. My mind was just somewhere else, you know? But yeah, it was an interesting adventure. I'm actually considering going again this year. I was supposed to go 2 years ago, but I didn't have enough time because I was also working on the island back then. So I was afraid that if I left, everything here would fall apart. But this time it was spontaneous. I just called my mom out of nowhere and said, I'm going on a pilgrimage. Where? On the pilgrimage. When are you leaving? In 2 days. All right, bye. And that was basically the whole conversation. So for me, a lot of things happen spontaneously, but I think that spontaneity is much better than things that are planned out. Yeah, the island, my business in Torun. Those beginnings, oh my goodness. They told me I never said right away that I was going to be some big businessman. I just wanted to have some passive income, my own salary, something that would always be there no matter what I was doing, but something steady on the side. I remember I opened the island in October, and by November I was saying I'm closing this, right? I put a lot of money into it and I said I'm closing this because it doesn't make sense. I started from absolute zero, nothing, 0 clients, 0 patients, a completely different area. Before, when I used to go to people for massages, it was in my own village with my massage table, so those were completely different people, not from Torun. Why do I need my coffee? first of all, I think it's my great passion. Secondly, I don't like sitting in traffic jams. That's one thing that has truly bothered me throughout my entire life. I certainly think so. For sure, traffic jams are indeed the very first and primary reason to consider having a motorcycle. And it varies, because sometimes I ride my motorcycle to work and sometimes I just like to go for a ride.
When I'm in Warsaw, well, I don't know, sometimes we get to the point where there are 200 motorcycles or 50 motorcycles, but it's cool. We know how to find each other, we know how to ride around Warsaw together.
There are many fender benders. Sometimes we even have ambulances riding with us. It's pretty cool escort, right? We often have these planned rides, so that's also nice that motorcycles bring people together. And I've thought about that sometimes. There are people who smoke cigarettes and there are people who ride motorcycles. I'll meet another person while having a smoke. When I ride my motorcycle and stop somewhere, I also meet a lot of people. And that's also cool that you can look at it that way too.